Thank you, Senator Simons. I certainly agreed with the majority of your speech. Not sure about the amendment, but certainly about most of everything else you said. And indeed agree that we have a problem with some legislation here that does pit region against region in our country. And we should try to do everything we can to become a cohesive unit right across from coast to coast to coast. And so travel certainly on Bill C-69 is necessary. We have another bill in front of this chamber and indeed in committee now in transport, Bill C-48, a bill that bans tankers, and clearly a bill that is pitting region against region. I'm wondering, Senator Simons, why you have a different view on C-69 than you do on C-48, where you were as adamantly opposed to travel as you seem to be in favor of travel on this one.
Senator Simons.
I confess I find myself very confused. I voted in all of our committee discussions on C-48, some of which were in camera, and I know that you objected to making the in-camera portions public, so I'm not sure what I'm allowed to reference here in the chamber. But certainly my contributions to the committee on C-48 were to stress that we ought to travel, particularly to the parts of British Columbia. I did oppose the idea of traveling to Norway. I opposed the idea of traveling to the Netherlands. I opposed the idea of traveling to Mexico. And I opposed the idea of traveling to Alaska. I believe I also opposed, so I thought that traveling to the affected regions of the area, because I frankly share deeply your concerns about Bill C-48, which would effectively trap Alberta oil from egress through 95% of the British Columbia coast. I agree, we need to give very serious consideration to Bill C-48. As an Alberta senator who serves on the Transportation Committee as well as the Energy Committee, I am fully seized of the importance of studying Bill 48. I just didn't think much, though I've always thought Song of Norway is lovely. I didn't think it was prudent to spend taxpayer dollars there.
Senator Place.
Well, thank you for that answer on issues that are entirely irrelevant, because at no time at committee was there a proposal to travel to Norway or Mexico. This had been a discussion that was held prior, but I was at the meeting where votes took place. There was no motion on traveling to any place outside of Canada. I think we were pretty much united, I at least was, in opposing travel out of our country. But there were motions about traveling to Saskatchewan. There were motions about traveling to Alberta, individual motions. There were motions about traveling to Newfoundland and Labrador, and I may be wrong in this about New Brunswick, but I think there was a motion about traveling to New Brunswick. Each of those, you're shaking your head, okay, maybe there wasn't, but there was in the other one. Each of those were voted down at committee. So I don't know the relevance or the between traveling to Mexico and traveling to Alberta or Saskatchewan. I think they're vastly different. So would you comment on why these motions, one of which I made, were turned down?
Simons.
Well, as Senator Plett may recall, I was unfortunately unable to be there for part of yesterday's meeting, but sorry. No, on Friday. All right, let us refocus. Let me get to the heart of your question. Why does C-69 why does Bill C-69 merit more intensive travel than Bill C-48? And I'll tell you, it's very specific. Bill C-48 has a fundamental impact on a very particular part of Canada. My whole argument about Bill C-69 is that it's not a bill about Alberta and British Columbia. It is a bill that affects every single province. It affects the capacity of Newfoundland to regulate development of its offshore and impinges upon the integrity of the offshore boards. It affects the sovereignty of Quebec to determine whether or not it can approve hydroelectric dams that are within its own jurisdiction. It impinges upon Saskatchewan's ability to make use of its uranium resources. One of the things that I think is the most dangerous and terrifying to me as an Albertan about the debate about Bill C-69 is the way it has become polarized, particularly in my home province of Alberta, so that Albertans feel it's the rest of the country ganging up on them. The essential point I wanted to make in my speech today, and that I want to make in my answer to you, is that because C-69 is not a bill about pipelines, it is a bill about every kind of major infrastructure that is part of nation building. How do we build hydroelectric lines that connect our country and green our grid if we don't have an impact assessment system that works? That's why I think there is significant merit in traveling to more places on Bill C-69, whereas Bill C-48 is a much simpler bill, much shorter. It's basically an up-down decision, and I think the place to make it is best informed by going to the place where the ban would be in effect.
Sorry, Senator Simons, but your time has expired, and I know there are a number of senators rising who would like to ask more questions. Are you asking for 5 more minutes to answer questions?
It would be nice if somebody other than Senator Platt had a chance.
Is leave granted, honourable senators? Agreed. Senator Platt.
Senator Simons, when you become the Speaker, you will decide to ask questions. Until you do, I think the Speaker will, and I, Senator, have every right to ask you a question. There is no double standard, and when I ask you a question, you answer. Senator Simons, again, you talked about having not voted and talked about in camera. You voted against a motion to travel to Alberta, you voted against a motion to travel to Newfoundland and Labrador, and you voted against a motion to travel to Saskatchewan. They were all not in camera. Why is it not important to travel to your province of Alberta to talk about a tanker ban that will decimate your province? And thank you, Senator Francis Lankin, for answering my question.
Order, please. Order. Order, please. Senator Simons, the question? Did you want
To answer your question,
sorry,
Senator Platt.
Simons,
Because
Senator Simons, sorry, one moment, please. Point of order, Senator Wu.
Your Honour, I believe that this question is out of scope. It is clearly directed at a different bill, C-48. We are debating here a motion on C-69, and with due respect, I would ask you to consider ruling this question and all questions on other bills out of order.
I'm sorry. Senator Simons brought up C-48. We didn't bring it up. In her remarks, she brought up C-48. She brought up the travel that was discussed in transport on C-48 to other parts outside of the country, and she was the one who raised C-48. Therefore, she should answer questions on C-48.
Senator Simons, order, please. Order. Honourable colleagues will know that, again, when we enter into debate on matters such as motions and amendments to motions, we have a fair amount of leeway in terms of how that debate unfolds. Senator Wu makes a good point. There is a time when we stray too far from that, but I don't think we have in this particular case, as Senator Simons herself has raised the issue, and I believe the question is worthy of an answer. Senator Simons.
Just to clarify, because Mr. Tkachuk might not have caught it, because sometimes Mr. Platt's voice doesn't carry, but it was Senator Platt who actually asked me specifically about C-48, and that was why I responded as I did. So let me give the answer again. I am an Albertan. I am a passionate Albertan, and I am fully aware of the challenge that Bill C-48 poses for my province. Let me explain to those of you who have not been as engaged with C-48 as perhaps Senator Platt and Senator Tkachuk and I have. C-48 proposes to impose a moratorium, which, as we learned in testimony, is not a moratorium. It is a ban. There is no end date. It proposes to impose a moratorium on all passage of heavy oil tankers across northern British Columbia, from the northern tip of Vancouver Island up to Alaska. This has serious ramifications for Alberta's energy industry, because it would mean effectively, it's not just a pipeline, it's not just a oil tanker moratorium, it's a pipeline moratorium. It's a very serious problem, and especially this means that we are hanging on TMX in Alberta as our only clear chance right now to get oil to market. Are there arguments that can be made about C-48? Absolutely. I have questions I wish to ask of our witnesses in the future, for example, about dilbit, diluted bitumen, and whether or not it's possible for diluted bitumen to be exempted from the tanker ban. I have questions about whether it's possible to use different international regulations of sea protection to protect really important environmental areas of that coast of British Columbia and perhaps form some kind of corridor for heavy oil tankers. So believe me, I am very seriously concerned about C-48 and its ramifications for Alberta.